Keith, you finally got your hands on a copy of the Centenary book. Nice to have it out and to recognise what has been a momentous year to celebrate the century.
Yeah, no, absolutely delighted, Richard. Massive thanks to yourself and to Charlie Allen for all the work that you guys have done in compiling the book, to designing code, obviously for their work in pulling together the design, which I think is absolutely first class, to XIC also for the speed that they produced the book, just in time for the end of the centenary season. So another big box ticked for the club. Delighted with the book, the quality. I've read a lot of the content, obviously in the lead up to it being produced, and then there's some brilliant stories, some really interesting stories, some good funny stories, and I think it's a book we can all be proud of.
And it's fitting, isn't it, that you have the finished article in your hands there just as we come to the end of the year, in what has been a remarkable year for the club, moving up to the championship.
Yeah, delighted with the progress that we've made in the short space of time. So yeah, very, very fitting that we've reached this level in our 100th year, and again, something that everyone at the club can be incredibly proud of.
The celebrations obviously are encapsulated in the book, but it's quite a journey, isn't it? When you think back to the very early days, and in fact there was a team in Cove even before 1922, but officially the club formed by Alexander Smith a century ago. What was clear to me in going through it all was the highs and lows. I mean, they've had to face a lot of challenges along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. The easy bit is sitting here right now, looking back over 100 years, and in my 25 years at the club, we've also had some tough times too. It's not always been success. I can remember some really tough games, some really tough seasons, where it kind of felt like we were just making up the numbers at times. Thankfully, we managed to get ourselves on a pathway that just continued to go, and it was almost like, where's this going to end? But again, that's down to the people that's been part of the club, and thankfully the people in the early part of the 100 years who had difficult times managed to keep the club alive, and our job is to continue to make sure that in 100 years' time, albeit I want to be here, it will still be alive and thriving, and who knows where it will be.
And there are chapters dedicated to people who have been key individuals throughout yourself, and I know you're too humble to accept that, but you've clearly played a major part. But there's Alan McRae, there's John Sheeran, there's Gordon Hutchin, of course, sadly missed. Gordon played a major part, and Duncan Little, our secretary for the past 30 odd years.
100%. I mean, for me, Absent Friends is the first thing I think about when I look at the 100-year, the title of the book. There's been lots of people who sadly are no longer with us who have had a huge part in where we are today. And then you've got the guys who are still around, thankfully, to share their stories. Duncan, who is Mr. Cove. People talk about Duncan in that way, and he's given a massive part of his life up to this club. As is Alan McRae. You mentioned John, our most successful manager ever. So yeah, it just feels like I've came along at the right time, where all these guys have done all the good things, and I just have to sit and face the camera.
And as you look back, there are so many triumphs, so many victories. Is there one during your time which stands out that will always burn brightest?
Yeah, for me, there's a lot of games jump out for me, but the one that kind of sticks in my mind was the one that got us into the SPFL. Berwick, Rangers away. On a day we went there feeling reasonably confident because we had a great result here the prior week. We were kind of didn't want to get overconfident. The guys did a job. It was brilliant to be there along with a lot of people who'd been with the club a long time. There was people travelled down from the Highland League club to support us that day. The office bearers for the Highland League committee were there that day, and it was brilliant for all them to be there and help us celebrate that day too. Didn't really remember much about the journey home. I'm going to blame our sponsor Terry Cobbin for the quality of wine, shall we say, that we had on the train on the way back up the road. But yeah, I think I didn't really appreciate, I think fully at the time, the real impact that was going to have on the club going forward. But it was a massive occasion, and you know, having failed the prior year, it made it even sweeter. It made it even sweeter. So for us, it's about enjoying the highs and learning for the lows.